Dallas with a huge win last night against the Denver Nuggets. Is it safe to say that Kyrie Irving buzzer beater was it's one of, if not the most ridiculous buzzer beaters I've ever seen in my life at any level. At any level. And by the way, I'm including three-quarter court heaves that go viral from high school. The left-handed 20-foot running hook shot over Nikola Jokic. When people talk about Kyrie Irving being the most skilled player ever, and I'm not here to debate that day or debate that today, but when people talk about that, it's because of moments like this. The confidence to shoot that shot and have it go in is just insane.
Yeah, here's the thing. You're not one word that you just said is hyperbole. There's no overstatement. I don't know that I would have enough words to accurately describe what I watched on that play, because the thing is, it wasn't anything about that was flukish. He shot the basketball the way he wanted to shoot the basketball with his left hand. It was kind of it was, I don't know how to describe it. It wasn't really a jumper. It wasn't really a floater where like your palm is like behind the ball, right? It wasn't a hook shot. It was like a combination of all three of those things in one, with Jokic with an outstretched hand. And look, I thought a huge win for them. As well as they played, and I thought they played really hard in this game. I thought Denver came to play. And you could see that by the emotion out of Mike Malone at times throughout this game. Like, at one point, remember him calling the timeout and screaming at his guys as they're coming off the court to grab a rebound after Dallas had just had 3 straight possessions where they got offensive rebounds. And finally, one possession, they got 3 shots and led to a bucket. And you could just see the way that they played, competed, the way he was at, like they wanted this game. This was a big game. Everybody's out there. We didn't know if Luka was going to play. He plays. Denver's got their guys. Like this lived up to it. And so for Dallas, if they had lost that game in overtime, it just doesn't it gives you, even though like, hey, maybe they lose on a buzzer beater in overtime to Denver. Doesn't matter like that we played really well against them. It's the same gut punch feeling. It's demoralizing. They had to finish the deal in this game because I've been high on Dallas since they made the acquisitions at the trading deadline, and I'm not changing the way I feel. And what you saw yesterday in the way that those 2 star players played and the way Kyrie finished that game tells you why. I like the new pieces. They fit. The Lively fits. Gafford fits. They can shoot it. And then they've got these 2 guys that can absolutely trump anything that's put in front of them defensively, any scheme, any matchup, anything, any effort, whatever it may be. There's no real answer for either one of those guys. And Kyrie reminded us that this is one of the most special offensive talents this league has ever seen. There's a lot that comes with Kyrie Irving. A lot of things we've talked about have nothing to do with basketball over the course of the last, half a dozen years or more. But there is no denying that this is one of the most sensational offensive talents this league has ever seen. And what he did at the end of that game defies any logic that ball can go in. And the reaction of Luka was tremendous. And like the whole team, that looks like a team that, just punched their ticket to the Final Four. Like that's the reaction you get, out of that. And it's amazing. So it was amazing to watch. And I don't know that I've watched that shot probably 10, 12 times just to see, am I missing something here? Was there anything about this that was luck? That was one eye closed? Like what was going on here? Nothing. That was pure, man. He did what he wanted to do. And he made one of the most incredible buzzer beating shots that this game has ever seen.
Did you call it maybe a throw? Is that what did you call it a throw? You said it wasn't really a runner. It wasn't really a hook.
It wasn't a runner and it wasn't a jump shot. It was a little bit of all 3.
Yeah. Almost like a little baseball toss, like a left-handed baseball toss. And
his hand kind of twisted. He twisted it a little bit. It's
interesting because when he going that direction, right? Shooting with your offhand, it's almost like he had to put a little action on it. You know what I mean?
That's such a great point, JJ, because you're right. Look, we've all, you're a great shooter. I was a great shooter. Like we can make all kinds of crazy shit. Like people would be shocked at some of the shit we would do, right? Messing around or whatever, or even in a game sometimes. Going to your right, like I could go to my left hand and shoot like a little fade. Similar to how I would go to my left and shoot a fade right. I could do that, But to go left with a hand coming at you this way, this side of your body, which you're obscuring the rim, to put that ball out to the side while you're drifting left and not have the ball go left of the rim, that's incredible. So to do that, you had to kind of put that little twist at the end to get the inertia going back in the opposite direction from his body, man. It was unreal. And Dallas it's been a little bit of a wild ride for them. And they were so good initially with these acquisitions, and then they struggled, and now they're playing well again. So they're thoroughly in the mix. They've embedded themselves, man. And that you talk about dangerous. That's dangerous.
I want to get to that in a second. There's a few things I just wanted to point out. Number one, on Kyrie Irving, over the last 4 seasons, there are 48 players in the NBA to take 250 or more non-dunk shots at the rim with both hands. So 250 left-handed non-dunk shots at the rim, 250 right-handed non-dunk shots at the rim. 48 players have done that. Only 4 players have shot 55% or better. Kyrie Irving is one of them. Nikola Jokic, Drew Holiday. You see Drew use his left all the time. The 4th guy, by the way, I was shocked to see this. Buddy Hield. How about that?
Wow.
Buddy Hield. But when we talk about, everybody talks about Kyrie Irving's finishes, and sometimes with certain guys, you're like, oh, you see a highlight tape, and it's like, oh, this guy's a great finisher. And then you go look up the numbers, and you're like, no, he's not. With Kyrie, the reputation is backed up by all of the data. This guy's a ridiculous finisher and an insane sort of ambidextrous player. You brought up Gafford in Washington, found this interesting. So prior to their debut on February 10th, Dallas ranked 29th in paint points. Since February 10th, they rank 5th in paint points, 6th in fast break points. Obviously, if you score a layup in transition, that counts as a paint point. So playing a little bit faster, getting out in transition more, Gafford and Washington have been huge. And you mentioned Derek Lively. And I thought, in watching that game, by the way, you're talking about the Phoenix Suns at this stage of the season. What a juxtaposition against the Denver Nuggets and how they've looked coming out of All-Star break. Best record in the league, 11-1 coming into yesterday, 11-2 now. Boston at 10-2, but Denver has had a purpose to everything they're doing. Right. I thought watching that game yesterday, there were times where I felt like Jokic was really trying to go after Derek Lively, and Derek Lively, to his credit, more than held his own against Nikola Jokic. Jokic was 2 for 8 when Lively was the contesting defender, and there were times where he tried to, I don't want to use the word punk him, but he was trying to be physical with him and use his body. Lively held his ground. I thought it was an outstanding game for him. He's been such a good rookie. And to your point about Dallas in the playoffs, he's got to be a guy who steps up and stars in his role. Where do you sort of view Dallas right now in the Western Conference in the playoffs?
Here's how I look at the West right now, because you got obviously major questions about Cat and what's going to happen in Minnesota. The Clippers couldn't look worse than they look right now. We just talked about the Phoenix Suns. OKC's been very consistently good all year. Outside of the Nuggets, who I think, I really think are in a class of their own. In fact, if it wasn't for the Denver Nuggets, I think we would all just basically go ahead and tell Boston to plan a parade route. Right? That because Boston has been so good, and yet the Denver Nuggets are still there. They're still in the league. They still look the way they look. That's the only thing standing in Boston's way, probably, is Denver. And so that, to me, they're still on a separate shelf from everybody else in the Western Conference. I think Dallas is right there now. They're laying claim with any of those other teams because there's just so many questions about them. And Oklahoma City just got them. And look, there's a continuity thing with Oklahoma City, and their pieces fit so great together and the way that they play. Oklahoma City would be favored in a series with the Dallas Mavericks, I believe, in a best of 7. I'm not sure I would pick Oklahoma City to win that series because of Luka and the extent to which he can control that everything about it and what he's already proven he can do when the stage is the biggest and the lights are the brightest. Like he has the ability to just slow everything down to a pace that he wants. And so I think they're right there now, JJ. You could put Dallas, for me, in the mix with any of those teams because there's question marks about all of them right now. And I think Dallas, they've won 5 out of 6. They've had 3 really good wins. And the one loss was to Oklahoma City. So they do have to prove themselves still. But I think, look, if Dallas continues to play out this last month and they're playing the way they're playing right now, they can avoid Denver somehow, just avoid whatever that matchup ends up being, that bracket. If they can avoid that bracket, they're going to have a great chance, man, to win a round or 2 and end up in the conference finals, I believe. Because I think they right now can lay claim to it just as much as any team out there other than Denver.
Josh Green, believe he's nursing an ankle injury. He's got to get healthy. I think yesterday they said he's got another couple weeks. They need him, his energy defensively. Another guy who can knock down shots.